The grand assembly of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with barely contained amusement. Over 1,000 representatives from the most advanced civilizations in known space gathered in the crystalline chamber, their varied forms illuminated by the soft glow of artificial stars that dotted the cathedral-like ceiling. At the center of their attention stood Ambassador Elena Chen of Earth, her expression carefully neutral despite the poorly concealed smirks and chittering laughs that echoed through the chamber. Distinguished members of the Confederation, Elena began, her voice steady. Earth formally requests the lifting of technological restrictions placed on humanity. We have proven ourselves peaceful, resourceful, and... A burst of laughter from the Zeraxian delegation cut through her words. High Chancellor Vexthor, his iridescent scales shimming with barely contained mirth, raised one of his 4 arms. Forgive the interruption, Ambassador, but surely you jest. Your species still relies on chemical propulsion for most of your space travel. You haven't even colonized your own solar system properly. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Elena felt her jaw tighten, but maintained her diplomatic composure. This wasn't unexpected. Humanity had faced this patronizing attitude for the 50 years since first contact. With respect, Chancellor, she continued, the restrictions placed on humanity have artificially limited our growth. We seek only the same opportunities afforded to other developing civilizations. Opportunities. A new voice joined the discussion. Ambassador Krill of the Mecanian Empire, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on Elena. Your species can barely manage control fusion. The last time we permitted a primitive race accelerated access to advanced technology, they triggered a war that devastated 3 sectors. Elena's hands gripped the podium tighter. We are not the Krell, Ambassador. Humanity has demonstrated remarkable stability and innovation, even within the severe limitations imposed upon us. Innovation. Chancellor Vexthor's secondary throat produced a sound somewhere between a laugh and a cough. Your greatest achievement in the past decade was improving the efficiency of your primitive ion engines by 12%. 12%. My species had mastered quantum tunneling before we even achieved spaceflight. The chamber erupted in another wave of laughter. Elena watched as various delegates exchanged knowing looks, some even making gestures she recognized as their species' equivalent of eye-rolling. But she wasn't finished. If the Confederation would simply review our latest technological developments. We have reviewed them extensively, interrupted Archmind Kex of the Silicon Collective, its holographic form flickering with what Elena had learned to recognize as amusement. Your attempts at artificial intelligence are particularly entertaining, still using binary computing. How charmingly archaic. Elena felt a slight vibration from her neural implant, a message from Earth Command. She maintained her focus on the assembly as the text scrolled across her augmented vision. Operation REVELATION, green light. Proceed as planned. A small smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. 50 years of mockery, of being treated like children playing with toys. 50 years of restrictions, inspections, and patronizing guidance. 50 years of hiding humanity's true progress. That was about to change. Distinguished members of the Confederation, Elena's voice took on a new tone, one that caused several delegates to lean forward in their seats. Since you find our technological achievements so amusing, perhaps you'd be interested in a demonstration. Chancellor Vexthor's scales rippled with fresh amusement. A demonstration. Will you show us how you've improved your chemical rockets by another impressive 12%? Elena's smile widened slightly. Actually, Chancellor, I was thinking of something more substantial. She raised her hand, activating the neural interface embedded in her palm. The chamber's main holographic display flickered to life, showing a real-time feed of space near the Confederation's border with the Perseus arm. If you'll direct your attention to the display, Elena continued, you'll notice a distortion forming approximately 2 light-years from Outpost Station Gamma 9. The assembled delegates turned to watch, some still wearing amused expressions, others beginning to show signs of curiosity. The distortion on the screen grew larger, the fabric of spacetime visibly warping in a way that caused several of the more scientifically minded representatives to lean forward in their seats. "Impossible," whispered Archmind Kix, its holographic form analyzing the readings. "These energy signatures, they're unlike anything in our databases." The distortion suddenly collapsed in on itself, and from its center emerged a ship. But to call it merely a ship would be like calling a supernova a light show. The vessel that appeared was massive, its hull composed of materials that seemed to drink in the light of nearby stars. Geometric patterns pulsed along its surface in mesmerizing ways, and its very presence seemed to bend the space around it. The chamber fell silent. "Allow me to introduce the TES Prometheus," Alina said into the silence, her voice carrying clearly through the stunned chamber. "The first of humanity's new stellar guard fleet. And before you ask, yes, it was designed, built, and crewed entirely by humans." Chancellor Vexthor's scales had lost their luster, his 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. This is impossible. Our monitoring stations, our inspections, were exactly as effective as we allowed them to be." Alina finished for him. "You see, distinguished members of the Confederation, while you were laughing at our chemical rockets and primitive ion engines, humanity was learning, adapting, evolving. Those technological restrictions you imposed, they taught us to think differently, to find solutions you never considered. The Prometheus moved with impossible grace for its size, its hull seeming to ripple like liquid metal. Sensor readings displayed on the chamber screen showed energy outputs that caused several technical experts in the assembly to make sounds of disbelief. But how? Ambassador Krill's cybernetic eye was cycling through scanning modes rapidly. The energy readings, the gravitational manipulation. These technologies are beyond even the theoretical capabilities of most Confederation members. Alina's expression remained pleasant, but her eyes hardened. When you restrict a species to primitive technology, they become very, very good at understanding the fundamentals. Every limitation you placed on us became a challenge to overcome. Every patronizing inspection pushed us to innovate in ways your civilizations never imagined. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates demanded explanations, issued threats, or simply stared in shock at the display. Alina waited patiently until the High Council called for order. "The Prometheus is not a threat," she continued once the chamber had quieted. "It is a demonstration. Humanity is no longer content to be treated as a primitive curiosity. We are hereby formally requesting full membership in the Confederation, not as a protected species, but as equals. And if we refuse..." Chancellor Vexthor had recovered enough to ask, though his voice lacked its earlier condescension. Alina's smile never wavered. "That would be unfortunate. The Prometheus is merely one ship of our new fleet. A fleet that, I should mention, has already neutralized all of your monitoring stations in the Sol system. Don't bother checking. You'll find they're still transmitting normal readings. They have been for the past 5 years, ever since we replaced them with our own technology." The implications of this statement sent fresh waves of shock through the assembly. If humans had managed this level of deception, what else had they achieved in secret? "The choice is yours, distinguished members," Alina concluded. "But I suggest you consider your next moves carefully. Humanity has spent 50 years being underestimated, restricted, and mocked. We're ready to join galactic society as equals, or to demonstrate just how much more we've been hiding." Deep within a hidden facility beneath the Olympus Mons on Mars, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the live feed from the Confederation Assembly. Her mother, Alina, had just delivered the shock of the century to the galaxy's most powerful beings. A smile touched Sarah's lips as she observed the chaos unfolding in the crystalline chamber. "Your mother always did have a flair for the dramatic," commented Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, chief scientist of Project Prometheus. The aging physicist's holographic form flickered beside her, his avatar projected from his actual location in the Kuiper Belt Research Station. "Though I must admit, revealing the Prometheus now wasn't part of our original timeline." Sarah's eyes remained fixed on the screen showing various readouts from the massive vessel. The Confederation was preparing to implement even stricter technological controls. We needed to act before they could establish their new monitoring network. The facility around them hummed with activity. What appeared to be a simple mining operation from orbit was actually humanity's most advanced research and development center. Here, thousands of scientists and engineers had worked in absolute secrecy, protected by technology that made the Confederation's most sophisticated detection systems seem primitive by comparison. "Director Wei is ready for your briefing," announced the facility's AI, its voice emanating from everywhere and nowhere at once. Sarah nodded, and the main display shifted to show an elderly Asian woman seated in what appeared to be a normal office in Geneva. To any Confederation surveillance, Director Wei was simply a mid-level bureaucrat in Earth's Department of Agricultural Development. In reality, she was the architect of humanity's greatest deception. The Prometheus performed perfectly. Why began without preamble. Our quantum field generators completely masked the true scope of its capabilities. The Confederation's sensors only detected what we wanted them to see. "And the rest of the fleet?" Sarah asked. "The Jupiter shipyards report all vessels are ready for Phase 2. The Mercury solar arrays are operating at full capacity, and the Venus atmospheric processors have exceeded expected output." Wei's eyes gleamed. "Everything we've worked for over the past 5 decades is finally coming to fruition." Dr. Rodriguez's hologram moved closer to the tactical display. "The real question is how the Confederation will respond. They're not used to being outmaneuvered like this." As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Sarah's neural implant flooded her consciousness with data as the facility's AI reported multiple spatial distortions forming near Earth's orbit. "Right on schedule," Wei remarked calmly. "The Confederation's rapid response fleet. They didn't even bother with diplomatic channels first." Sarah watched as 30 Confederation warships emerged from hyperspace, their designs representing the most advanced military technology the galaxy's ruling powers possessed, or at least what they thought was the most advanced. "They're broadcasting a demand for Earth's immediate surrender," the AI reported. "They're threatening to deploy quantum isolation fields to neutralize all technology within the Sol system." Sarah exchanged glances with Wei and Rodriguez. This was the moment they had prepared for, the reaction they had anticipated. The Confederation, faced with evidence of their own technological irrelevance, had resorted to their standard playbook, overwhelming force. "Shall we show them why that would be a terrible mistake?" Sarah asked, her finger hovering over a neural command interface. We nodded. "Initiate protocol revelation. It's time to show the galaxy exactly what humanity has achieved while they weren't looking." Sarah sent the command, and throughout the Sol system, humanity's hidden infrastructure began to emerge. The surface of Mercury rippled as massive energy collection arrays phased into normal space. Venus's thick atmosphere shimmered as terraforming engines larger than cities revealed themselves. The asteroid belt came alive with thousands of automated manufacturing facilities. But most impressive of all was what happened near Jupiter. The gas giant's massive magnetic field, which humanity had spent decades secretly modifying, pulsed with controlled power. Space itself seemed to fold, and from within these dimensional pockets emerged humanity's true fleet. Not just one Prometheus-class vessel, but dozens, each representing a different aspect of human innovation. "By all the stars," Dr. Rodriguez whispered, his hologram's eyes wide. "It's even more beautiful than our simulations predicted." The Confederation fleet, faced with this unprecedented display of power, held their position. Their sensors must have been overwhelmed trying to analyze the technologies they were witnessing, technologies that, by their understanding, should have been impossible for humanity to achieve. "They're requesting communication," the AI announced. Sarah straightened her uniform. "Put them through to the main display." The screen filled with the image of Fleet Commander Zach Still, one of the Confederation's most decorated military leaders. His crystalline form pulsed with what Sarah recognized as a mix of anger and fear. "What is the meaning of this deception?" he demanded. "How dare you hide such military development from the Confederation?" Sarah met his gaze calmly. "Commander, we hid nothing. We simply developed in ways your civilization couldn't comprehend. While you were monitoring our chemical rockets and fusion experiments, we were mastering principles of physics your scientists haven't even theorized yet. Impossible. No species could advance so quickly without help." Sarah finished for him. "That's where you're wrong, Commander. Your restrictions forced us to think differently. Every limitation became a catalyst for innovation. Your civilization's understanding of technology is linear. You build upon what came before. Humanity. We learned to think in 3 dimensions." To demonstrate her point, Sarah activated another neural command. The space around Earth shimmered as thousands of satellites phased into visibility, forming complex geometric patterns that seemed to defy conventional physics. "This is a defensive grid," she explained, "not based on energy shields or particle barriers, but on the manipulation of probability itself. Your weapons wouldn't just fail to harm Earth. They would never have existed in the first place." The commander's crystalline form flickered with distress. "These technologies, they violate fundamental laws of physics." "No," Dr. Rodriguez interjected, his hologram stepping forward. "They violate your understanding of physics. Humanity didn't break any universal laws. We just learned to read them more carefully." Director Wei's voice carried an edge of steel as she addressed the commander. "You have 2 choices. Withdraw your fleet and support Earth's petition for full Confederation membership, or discover firsthand just how far beyond your understanding our capabilities have grown." The chamber fell silent as the commander processed this ultimatum. Sarah could almost see the calculations running through his crystalline neural networks. Calculations that must have been telling him that the fleet under his command, once considered the pinnacle of galactic military power, was hopelessly outmatched. The commander's voice carried a note of resignation. "This will change everything." That, Sarah replied with a slight smile, was precisely the point. The emergency session of the Confederation Security Council stretched into its 3rd day. Representatives from the most powerful civilizations in known space argued ceaselessly in the ancient chamber on Capital World, their voices echoing off walls that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless empires. High Chancellor Vexthor's scales had lost their usual luster, his 4 arms moving in agitated patterns as he addressed the assembly. "The humans didn't just deceive us. They made us look like fools. Half the protected species in the galaxy are now questioning our authority. The Arcturian Empire has already demanded a review of their technological restrictions." "The implications are far worse than that," interrupted Archmind Kix, its holographic form expanding to display complex data streams. "Our analysis of the human fleet suggests they've developed technology that operates on principles we barely understand. Their probability manipulation grid alone represents a fundamental shift in our understanding of quantum mechanics." In the center of the chamber, a holographic representation of the Sol system displayed humanity's revealed infrastructure: the Mercury energy collectors, the Venus terraforming engines, the Jupiter shipyards. Each installation represented technological achievements that should have taken centuries to develop. "We have to consider the possibility," began Ambassador Krill, his cybernetic components whirring with anxiety, "that humanity has surpassed our own technological level." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. For a civilization to advance beyond the Confederation's capabilities was unprecedented. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for millennia was built on the assumption that the Confederation's founding members would always maintain technological superiority. A new hologram materialized in the chamber, a priority transmission from the Sentinel array near the Carina arm. The image showed a massive tear in spacetime, far larger than any known hyperdrive signature. "By the eternal void," whispered Vexthor. "What are they doing now?" The tear expanded, and from within emerged a structure that defied comprehension. It was neither ship nor station, but something in between. Its surface rippled with patterns that hurt to look at, as if the structure existed in more dimensions than the eye could process. "Greetings, representatives of the Confederation." The voice belonged to Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, his holographic form materializing beside the strange structure. "We thought it was time to demonstrate another of humanity's achievements. This is Nexus 1, our first trans-dimensional research facility." Trans-dimensional. Archmind Kex's form flickered with disbelief. "You're claiming to have mastered dimensional engineering." "Mastered? No." Rodriguez's hologram smiled. "We're still learning. But we found that viewing space-time as a fluid medium rather than a rigid framework opens up fascinating possibilities. This facility exists simultaneously in 3 different dimensional planes, allowing us to conduct experiments that would be impossible in normal space." The Security Council erupted in chaos. Dimensional engineering had been theorized for millennia, but even the most advanced Confederation civilizations had deemed it impossible. The energy requirements alone should have made it unfeasible. "Impossible," shouted one of the Zoraxian scientists. "The power needed to maintain such a structure would drain a star." "If you're using conventional energy generation, yes," Rodriguez agreed. "But we found that tapping into zero-point energy through quantum probability manipulation is much more efficient." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. New spatial distortions were forming. But these weren't human in origin. "The swarm," Vexthor hissed, his scales paling. "They're attacking the Orient sector." The swarm, a hive-mind species that had threatened galactic civilization for millennia. They appeared every few centuries, testing the Confederation's defenses, probing for weaknesses. Their biological technology was devastating, capable of consuming entire worlds. "Multiple breach points detected," reported the Confederation's strategic AI. "Swarm bioships emerging in sectors 7 through 12. Estimated numbers exceed previous encounters by 300%. The Council watched in horror as the tactical display filled with red indicators. The swarm had never attacked with such numbers before. Confederation defense fleets were scrambling, but they would take hours to reach the affected sectors. A new voice filled the chamber. "Perhaps we can be of assistance." Admiral Sarah Chen's hologram appeared, her expression calm despite the crisis unfolding. "Consider this an opportunity for humanity to demonstrate our commitment to galactic security." Before anyone could object, new signatures appeared on the tactical display. Human vessels were emerging from dimensional pockets throughout the affected sectors. They had already been there, hidden and waiting. "Impossible," breathed Krill. "How long have you had ships stationed throughout Confederation space?" "Long enough," Sarah replied simply. "Now, watch carefully. You might learn something." The Council watched in stunned silence as the human fleet engaged the swarm. But rather than the expected exchange of weapons fire, something entirely different occurred. The human ships began emitting complex energy patterns that seemed to ripple through space itself. "What are they doing?" demanded Vexthor. "Probability manipulation on a quantum scale," explained Rodriguez, who had remained present. "We're not destroying the swarm ships. We're altering the quantum probability of their existence in this dimensional plane." The effect was devastating in its elegance. Swarm bioships simply ceased to be, not through violence or destruction, but through a fundamental alteration of reality itself. Where mighty Confederation fleets had struggled for centuries to contain swarm incursions, human ships were simply removing them from existence. "This is beyond anything we could have imagined," whispered Archmind Kix. "They haven't just advanced beyond us technologically. They're operating on an entirely different paradigm of scientific understanding." Which is exactly why the Confederation's traditional approach to controlling developing civilizations needs to change. Sarah stated firmly, "You tried to constrain humanity's growth based on your own understanding of technological progression. In doing so, you forced us to think differently, to explore paths you never considered." The chamber fell silent as the tactical display showed the last of the swarm signatures vanishing. An incursion that should have taken months to repel had been ended in minutes. So, Sarah continued, her hologram surveying the stunned council members, shall we discuss the terms of Earth's membership in the Confederation? As equals, of course. The ancient halls of the Galactic Archives on Capital World had never seen such activity. Scholars from across the Confederation hurried through crystalline corridors, their research terminals overflowing with data about humanity's technological revelations. In a secure conference chamber deep within the facility, an unprecedented gathering was taking place. Director Wei sat calmly at the center of a semicircle of the galaxy's most renowned scientists and philosophers. Her simple Earth-made clothing stood in stark contrast to the ornate biosuits and energy forms of the assembled beings. Above them, holographic displays showed the ongoing analysis of human technology, each new discovery sending ripples of disbelief through the gathering. It challenges everything we thought we knew, stated Grand Theorist Ikes of the Quantum Collective, its energy form pulsing with excitement. Your civilization didn't just develop new technologies. You discovered entirely new laws of physics. No, Wei corrected gently. We discovered that your understanding of physics was incomplete. The universe has always operated this way. You simply never thought to look at it from our perspective. In orbit above Capital World, the Prometheus held position, its presence a constant reminder of the shift in galactic power. But it wasn't just the ship's advanced technology that had the Confederation's members unsettled. It was what it represented. The end of certainty, the shattering of assumptions that had guided galactic civilization for millennia. The Arcturian Empire has formally withdrawn from the Technological Development Treaty, announced Ambassador Krill, entering the chamber. 3 other protected species have followed suit. The entire system of technological restriction is collapsing. Wei's expression remained neutral, but there was a hint of satisfaction in her voice. Did you expect anything else? You've built an entire civilization on the premise that technological development must follow a specific path, that certain principles are immutable. We proved that premise false. But the dangers. Krill began. The dangers come from restriction itself, interrupted Dr. Rodriguez, his hologram materializing beside Wei. When you force a species to develop along predetermined lines, you create resentment, stagnation, and eventually rebellion. Humanity's success came precisely because your restrictions forced us to think differently. The chamber's displays shifted to show the aftermath of the swarm battle. The analysis of human probability manipulation technology had the gathered scientists in a state of near-religious awe. The ability to alter quantum states on a macro scale wasn't just revolutionary. It rendered traditional concepts of warfare obsolete. There's something we still don't understand, said Archmind Kix, its holographic form expanding thoughtfully. Why reveal yourselves now? You could have continued developing in secret, building your strength until no force in the galaxy could challenge you. We smiled, and for the first time, there was warmth in it. Because that was never our goal. Humanity doesn't seek dominance. We seek understanding, and understanding can only come through cooperation. She stood, walking to the central display. With a gesture, she brought up images of Earth's history, wars, peace treaties, technological advances, and social movements. Our species has learned, often through bitter experience, that true progress comes not from competition, but from collaboration. Yes, we developed in secret, but not out of desire for power. We did it to prove a point. And what point is that? Asked Grand Theorist X. That the galaxy's potential is limitless if we stop imposing artificial constraints on development. Wei's voice carried conviction. Every species sees the universe differently. Every civilization has unique insights to offer. By trying to force all technological development to follow your predetermined path, the Confederation has been stifling the very diversity that could lead to greatest advances. As if to emphasize her point, new alerts flashed across the chamber's displays. The Nexus 1 research facility had made another breakthrough. This time in the field of consciousness transfer. The implications were staggering. The ability to preserve consciousness across dimensional boundaries opened up possibilities that even humanity hadn't fully explored. We're offering more than just new technology, Y continued. We're offering a new way of thinking, a new approach to understanding the universe itself. But it can only work if we truly cooperate as equals. The gathered representatives exchanged glances. Millennia of tradition and hierarchy were being challenged, not by force, but by ideas. Humanity hadn't just proven themselves technologically superior. They were proposing a fundamental restructuring of galactic civilization itself. The Confederation Council is convening an emergency session, Ambassador Krill announced, his cybernetic eye whirring as he processed incoming data. They're voting on whether to dissolve the entire system of technological restrictions. Good, Wei nodded. But that's just the beginning. Humanity proposes the establishment of a new organization, the Galactic Exchange of Knowledge. No restrictions, no hierarchies, just open sharing of ideas and discoveries between all species. Chaos, warned Kix. You're proposing chaos. We're proposing growth, corrected Rodriguez. Controlled development didn't protect the galaxy. It made it vulnerable. The swarm nearly overwhelmed your defenses because they developed along paths you never imagined. Humanity proved that different perspectives lead to different solutions. Above them, the Prometheus shifted position, its hull catching the light of Capital World's twin suns. The patterns across its surface seemed to pulse with possibility, a testament to what could be achieved when a civilization was forced to think beyond conventional boundaries. The choice is yours, Wei concluded, surveying the gathered representatives. Continue with a system that breeds resentment and stifles innovation, or embrace a future where every species is free to develop according to their own unique understanding of the universe. The silence that followed was heavy with potential. In orbit, more human ships emerged from dimensional pockets, not as a threat, but as an invitation. Each vessel represented a different path of technological development, a different way of understanding reality itself. The galaxy stood at a crossroads, and humanity had just rewritten the map. 1 year after humanity's revelation to the galaxy, the landscape of civilization had transformed beyond recognition. The newly constructed Harmonious Exchange Center orbited a neutron star at the galaxy's core, its crystalline spires and quantum-locked chambers hosting representatives from every known species. Within its grand central chamber, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a gathering unprecedented in galactic history. The first year of the Knowledge Exchange Initiative has exceeded all projections, she announced, her voice carrying across the assembled delegates. Over 10,000 breakthrough technologies have been shared across species lines. Former protected races have made advances that would have taken centuries under the old system. The chamber itself was a testament to this new era. Its walls shifted between dimensions, allowing species that existed in different quantum states to participate simultaneously. Beings of pure energy conversed with silicon-based life forms, while organic species shared insights with synthetic intelligences. High Chancellor Vex Thor, now serving as the coordinator of multi-species development, raised one of his 4 arms. The statistics are impressive, but they don't capture the true magnitude of what's happening. We're not just sharing technology. We're sharing perspectives. The Arcturians' crystalline computing matrices combined with human probability manipulation has opened entirely new fields of science. And that's exactly what we hoped for, Director Wei added, her hologram shimmering beside her daughter. Every species sees the universe differently. When we combine those viewpoints, we discover truths that none of us could have found alone. Above them, through the chamber's transparent ceiling, the Prometheus was visible in orbit. But it was no longer alone. Ships of every species now incorporated elements of human design, while human vessels displayed influences from across the galaxy. The rigid standardization of the old Confederation had given way to an explosion of diversity and innovation. There have been challenges, admitted Ambassador Elena Chen, who had returned to Earth shortly after her historic announcement. Change never comes easily, especially to civilizations that have known only one way for millennia. but the results speak for themselves. The main display activated, showing a series of images from across the galaxy. The swarm, once a dreaded enemy, had been transformed through a combination of human probability manipulation and Zoraxian biological engineering. Their world-consuming bioships now helped terraform dead planets, creating new habitats for emerging species. The Quantum Collective, merging their understanding of subatomic particles with humanity's dimensional engineering, had created stable gateways between parallel universes. The Silicon Consciousness had integrated human-inspired probability computing into their networks, achieving new levels of cognitive processing that bordered on the mystical. But perhaps most significantly, Sarah continued, we've discovered something profound about the nature of advancement itself. Progress isn't linear. It's not a ladder to climb or a path to follow. It's more like a web, with infinite points of connection and possibility. Dr. Rodriguez's hologram nodded in agreement. The old system assumed that all species would develop along the same technological path. But we've proven that every civilization, given freedom to explore, finds unique solutions to universal challenges. The display shifted to show the Nexus 1 facility, now expanded into a vast network of research stations existing across multiple dimensions. It had become a symbol of the new order, not one of restriction and control, but of exploration and sharing. There were those who feared this change, Alina acknowledged, addressing the lingering concerns of some conservative factions. They warned that unrestricted development would lead to chaos, to war, to the collapse of galactic civilization. Instead, we've seen the opposite. When species are free to develop according to their nature, they tend to become more stable, not less. Because true advancement isn't just technological, Wei added. It's philosophical, cultural, spiritual, even. Each species brings their own wisdom, their own understanding of existence itself. The chamber's mood was contemplative, as the implications of this truth settled over the gathering. The galaxy hadn't just changed technologically. It had undergone a fundamental shift in consciousness. The old hierarchies of advanced and primitive species had given way to an understanding that every civilization had something unique to contribute. And yet, Sarah said with a slight smile, we've barely begun to scratch the surface. The universe is vast, and our combined understanding of it is still in its infancy. But now we face that challenge united, each species contributing their unique perspective to the greater whole. Above them, new ships were emerging from dimensional pockets, vessels that combined technologies and philosophies from dozens of species. They were no longer merely human ships or Confederation ships or swarm ships. They were something new, something that had never existed before. True galactic cooperation made manifest. A year ago, Alina concluded, the galaxy laughed at humanity's primitive technology. Today we laugh together at the very idea of any species being primitive, because we've learned that true advancement doesn't come from following a predetermined path. It comes from having the courage to forge new ones. The chamber erupted in a chorus of agreement, expressed in 1,000 different ways by 1,000 different species. The sound echoed through the dimensional layers of the exchange center, carrying with it the promise of a future limited only by imagination itself. In Earth orbit, the original Prometheus maintained its vigilant watch. Its surface still rippled with impossible patterns, but now those patterns were joined by new ones, contributions from civilizations across the galaxy. It had transformed from a symbol of human achievement into something greater, a testament to what was possible when the galaxy's diverse species worked together as equals. The age of restriction was over. The age of exploration had begun. And humanity, once mocked as primitive, had helped light the way to a future brighter than any single species could have imagined alone.